Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I got my
It's
pen
called
ready.
simple reflexive questions. Isn't it, doesn't it, shouldn't it, don't you agree are simple reflexive questions that you add to the end of your statements, aren't they?
So good.
And when
I'm
you
into it.
ask it, I talk to audiences for the Small Business Administration. I'll have like 300 people sometimes or 400 people in an audience. And I'll say, does that make sense? And I'll see a bunch of looks on people's faces like going, oh. And I say, okay, well, let me explain this in a different way because I recognize I'm connecting with them. And let me give you an example of how this worked. And a couple of examples, but so I'm talking to a friend. I live in Southern California. I lived in Montreal originally, so I moved here because it's a little warmer.
Indeed.
Okay, but that's not, but there are other things. My mom moved here, so I wanted to be with my mom.
Amazing.
But so I said to my friend, well, normally I would say, it's a beautiful day. I said, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? And he went, yeah. Well, something's going on there. I said, well, what do you mean? What's wrong? Nothing. He said, well, what? I said, no, it's not a big deal. Just I'm having an argument, a fight with my wife. I said, well, why? What's going on? And I got to talk with him about this, all because of simple reflexive questions. Because I didn't just say it's a beautiful day. Hey, isn't this great? I'm saying, isn't this great? Isn't it? This is great, isn't it? And if people go, you sure? And then go, wait a second, what's wrong? Well, it doesn't, And when you wire it into how you talk, so you're not just talking at somebody, you're engaging with that person. It changes how we interact with people. I mean, I'm amazed how many people are public speakers and don't interact with their audience.
Yeah, completely.
And
I think that's like really a huge part of the people who are listening in. They're people who have some testimony. They've unlocked an area of expertise, zone of genius. Now they're going out and they're either kidding it in a book like you have. They're putting it in positioning on, you have a TEDx talk that's coming out, right? Or if it's not out already. Yep. There's a lot going on that people just want to position that for people. And if it becomes about me, then you actually, I think, lose what the essence was in the first place of you ever saying, hey, this is a message for the magnitude. This is the message for the millions. And it was never about you when you decided to get past yourself to present it. And then when we start talking, sometimes we forget there are people that we're supposed to be engaging with, and we get in our own headspace. Do you think that would be like one of the reasons why people are lacking engagement? They're so critical of their own, what's coming out of their mouth?
Well, and we assume people have the same understanding that we have.
Yeah.
Okay. And they don't. Okay, I'm going to give a story. This is actually going to sound very, very bad, but I apologize to the audience right away, but this is going to sound really bad. Okay, but in my book, I start by talking about this. But I'm going to give you the point on this, okay, because it's really profound. So the thing is, it's going to sound really bad. My 4-year-old didn't want to have sex with the boy next door. Okay. Now, this is, as a parent, this happened to me. So I was, okay. So I would say to audiences, and mostly women would say, so what would you say to your child? And they would say, you have to tell her. She has blah, 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 you have all these things and everything else. Here's what happened to me, okay? So I'm standing by my door, and I heard my 4-year-old daughter, or middle daughter, Lauren, talking to one of the neighbors. And the neighbors, the neighbor boy, I mean, like one of the little kids. And the kid says, do you like Alan, the boy next door? And she says, yeah, I like him, but I don't want to have sex with him. It's like, I'm a parent. What do I say? And at first, I looked at I'm a baby. I looked for my wife first. She was nowhere to be found, so I knew I have to go out and be the parent. Okay. So I say to people, "What would you say? What would you say to her?" And I have people in my audiences. It's fun because I have good audiences. So they'll say like, "You should tell her she shouldn't talk like that," or whatever else. Here's what I said. I went out there, and His Heavenly Father gave me the tool. Okay, yeah, and I said, "Hey, Lauren, what's sex?" And she said, "That's kissing." And I said, yeah, don't do that because you get germs. And I quickly escaped, okay? But the point is...
Your dead heart was like completely done at that point.
Exactly. But the point is, if we misunderstand what a 4-year-old is thinking...
Right.
Do we misunderstand what 40-year-olds are thinking?
Good.
I mean, we take it for granted that people understand what we're saying all the time, and they don't. So here's something... Brain Glue addresses this whole issue of how does the brain work, okay? So that when we interact with people, we engage in them in a way that's really powerful. So one of the things we want to do is we want to clarify. And so one of the things that brain glue talks about right brain or emotional selling, okay? And I don't mean selling, but persuasion. If you're trying to convince somebody of something, you want to engage with them and engage with their mind. We think people are listening to us, but most of the time they're not. Somebody's sitting there nodding their head, and you're going like, "Oh wow, isn't this terrible?" Or what? Yeah. They're thinking, "Did I forget to turn off the oven at home? Did I leave my windows open? Did we just win a client? Are my kids okay?" They're thinking of all this stuff while they're listening to us, and so we want to say something that makes sense, like a question would be a good one, that wakes up their brain. They go like, "Oh wow." And so one of the things that I learned in this process is that sometimes logic turns off the emotion centers of the brain. And emotion is where we make decisions. So let me give you an example, okay? So I heard this expression, and it goes, 2.5 million Americans discard 2.5 million plastic bottles every hour. Numbers turn off the emotion, by the way. So that sounds like a lot. Wow, this really sounds like a lot. But what does it mean? That's a lot. What if I told you that's enough to reach the moon every 3 weeks?
Oh, wow.
What?
Wow.
Okay. Wow. We make assumptions that people understand what we're saying, but sometimes we have to clarify. Often we have to clarify. We clarify by first saying, "Does that make sense?" And if they go, "Yeah," does that make sense? What's up? We're interacting.